Wait, did you just say your jet? Her fiancé laughed, glass frozen midair, as every head at the table slowly turned toward me. Some moments split your life clean in two before they spoke. And after everyone realized they were wrong, let me take you back to where it all began. I hadn't been back to my parents' house in almost 3 years. The place looked the same, white siding, trimmed hedges, the American flag hanging by the porch. A house built on appearances, on keeping things looking just fine, even when they weren't. I parked my rental car a block away and walked the rest. Old habit. I didn't want anyone seeing what I drove, or asking questions I didn't feel like answering. Inside, the house buzzed with noise, laughter, plates clinking. My sister's engagement dinner was already underway. Of course it was. I paused at the door, took a breath, and stepped in. My mother spotted me first. Her smile came late, the kind that arrives because it's expected. "You made it," she said, already turning back to the table. No hug, no warmth, just confirmation. The dining room was full. My sister, Lauren, sat at the head of the table, glowing. Her fiancé, Ryan, beside her. Clean suit, confident posture. The kind of man who'd never been told no in his life. Around them, my aunts, uncles, cousins. People who shared my blood but never quite claimed me. "Wow," my aunt said, eyes sweeping me up and down. "You came straight from work?" I nodded. "Something like that," she hummed. "Still doing your little freelance thing?" There it was. The word little. Lauren didn't look at me. She was busy showing off her ring. "Ryan's family is flying us to Napa next month," she said. "Private tasting. 5-star hotel." Everyone oohed. I smiled politely and took the empty chair at the far end. This was how it always went. Their lives moved forward. Mine stayed questionable. To them, dinner rolled on. Conversations overlapped. Stories about promotions, real estate, country club drama. Every now and then, someone would throw me a glance. Curious. Measuring. "So," my uncle said, leaning back, "still living out of state?" "Yes." "Expensive city, huh?" he added. "Must be tough." I shrugged. "It's manageable." Lauren finally looked at me. Her smile was thin. "You know," she said, "Ryan was asking about you. He couldn't believe you didn't come to the engagement party." I met her eyes. "I had work." She laughed softly. "You always do." Ryan leaned forward, elbows on the table. "So what do you do exactly?" Every conversation slowed. Forks paused midair. I kept my voice even. "I run a company." A beat, then laughter. Light, dismissive. "Oh," my cousin said. "Like an online thing?" "Sure," I replied. Ryan smiled, the kind that said he'd already decided who I was. "That's cool," he said. "Hey, as long as you're happy." My mother cleared her throat. "Lauren, tell them about the venue." The spotlight shifted. Just like that, I focused on my plate. The food tasted fine, but my chest felt tight. This was why I stayed away. Not because I was ashamed, but because they never stopped trying to make me feel like I should be. After dessert, people moved into the living room. Drinks poured. Laughter grew louder. Ryan stood, glass raised. "I just want to say how grateful I am to be joining this family." Applause. He continued, "And I'm really looking forward to the wedding. It's going to be unforgettable." Lauren squeezed his hand. Then Ryan added, almost casually, "We even talked about arrival logistics today. Private flights are a nightmare during wedding season." My aunt laughed. "Must be nice having those problems." Ryan grinned. "You get used to it." His eyes drifted, then landed on me. "And hey," he said, voice playful, "maybe we can all fly together if schedules line up." A pause. My sister frowned. "What do you mean?" Ryan tilted his head. "Well, you said your sister has a jet, right?" Silence fell like a dropped glass. Lauren stared at him. "What?" He blinked. "You told me. On the phone. You said." Every face turned toward me. My heart didn't race that IT settled. I set my glass down gently. "I do," I said. The room felt smaller, tighter. My mother laughed nervously. Okay, that's funny. Ryan's smile faded. You were serious? I nodded. Yes. Lauren shook her head. Stop. I'm not, I said. My uncle scoffed. This isn't the time for jokes. I stood. Not defensive. Just done hiding. I didn't bring it up, I said calmly. You asked. Ryan studied my face, searching for cracks. For embarrassment. He didn't find any. That's impossible, my cousin whispered. I picked up my coat. Enjoy your night, I said. Congratulations, Lauren. I walked toward the door, heart steady, spine straight. Behind me, voices collided. What did she mean? Is she lying? A jet? Since when? I stepped outside into the cool night air. For the first time, I didn't feel small. But I knew something else too. Once the truth cracks the surface, it doesn't stop there. And by the next gathering, they wouldn't just be laughing. They'd be asking questions they weren't ready to hear. The calls started the next morning. I let the first one ring, then the second. By the third, I knew ignoring them wouldn't stop what I'd set in motion. I answered my mother. What was that last night? She asked. No greeting, no concern, just accusation wrapped in confusion. I told the truth, I said. There was a pause. I could picture her standing in the kitchen, arms crossed, staring at the window like the answer might be outside. Why would you say something like that in front of everyone? She said. I leaned against the counter of my apartment, sunlight cutting across the floor. I didn't bring it up. You embarrassed your sister. I closed my eyes. They've been embarrassing me for years. She exhaled sharply. This isn't funny. People are asking questions. I'm sure they are. She lowered her voice. Do you really have what he said? Yes. Another pause. Longer this time. You should have told us, she said. I almost laughed. Almost. I tried, I replied. You never listened. We hung up without resolution. Like always. By noon, Lauren texted. Call me. Now. I didn't. Instead, I went to work. The kind of work no one at that table had ever imagined I did. My office sat on the top floor of a glass building downtown. Clean lines. Quiet power. The kind of place where people spoke carefully and listened closely. As I walked in, my assistant looked up. Your flight time got moved up. Perfect, I said. Have the pilot ready. She smiled. Always is. Still, my phone kept buzzing. Lauren again. Then my aunt. Then a cousin who never remembered my birthday. By the time evening hit, curiosity had turned into panic. I finally called my sister back. What is wrong with you? She said the moment she picked up. Hi, Lauren. Don't hi me. Ryan thinks you made him look stupid. I stayed calm. I didn't say anything false. You let him say it. He said it because you told him. Silence. You never corrected him, I added. She snapped. Because it sounded ridiculous. Exactly. Her voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me? I did. Years ago. When I moved. When I stopped asking for help. She scoffed. You never said you were rich. I said I was doing well. That's not the same. To you, I said. She softened. Just a little. Is it really that serious? I looked out at the city. Cars moving like veins of light. Yes. Another pause. Ryan's parents want to meet you, she said carefully. I smiled. Of course they do. They think. Maybe there's been a misunderstanding. There hasn't. She hesitated. The wedding is in 3 weeks. I know. They're worried about appearances, she admitted. About who's in the family. I felt that familiar ache. The one that never fully left. Lauren, I said. I didn't build my life to impress them. She lowered her voice. Just come to dinner. Please. Clear things up. I agreed. Not because I owed them, but because I was tired of running. The dinner was at a steakhouse downtown. Valet parking. Heavy doors. Low lighting meant to signal importance. Ryan's parents were already seated when I arrived. His father stood too quickly. His mother's smile was tight. They studied me like a puzzle missing pieces. "Thank you for coming," his father said. "We were surprised." "So was I," I replied. We sat. Questions followed. Soft at first. Where I lived. What I did. Who I worked with. I answered simply. No bragging. No deflection. Ryan watched closely, measuring every word. Finally, his mother leaned in. "So, the jet." I met her gaze. "It's part of my company's fleet." Her eyes widened just enough. "And your company is?" I named it. Silence. Ryan's fork froze. His father's face changed. Not disbelief. Recognition. "I've heard of it," he said slowly. "I'm sure you have." The rest of the dinner shifted. Their tone. Their posture. The way they suddenly listened. Lauren sat stiff, hands folded in her lap. On the way out, Ryan stopped me by the door. "I didn't know," he said. "I believe you." He swallowed. "You could have said something sooner." I looked at him. "You could have asked without laughing." He nodded. Once, outside, Lauren caught up to me. "They're talking about changing things," she said. "The seating, the introductions." "For me?" I asked. "For them," she admitted. I took a breath. "Lauren, this isn't about a jet." She looked confused. "It's about respect," I said. "And whether you ever thought I deserved it." She didn't answer. As I drove away, the city lights blurred past. I felt something shifting, not just in them but in me, because the truth was out now. And once people realize they misjudged you, they don't just apologize. They panic. And panic makes people show who they really are. By the time the wedding arrived, I knew I wouldn't be able to walk in quietly anymore. The truth had landed. But instead of dealing with it, my family decided to step around it like broken glass. They smiled more, asked fewer questions, pretended the room hadn't tilted that night at the engagement dinner, as if saying nothing could somehow reset the balance. Couldn't. The week after that dinner felt unreal. My phone stayed quiet longer than usual. No jokes, no backhanded comments. No just checking in messages meant to remind me where I stood. Silence can be loud when you know what it's hiding. I went back to my routine. Morning workouts, meetings stacked back to back, decisions that moved money, jobs, futures. In those rooms, no one questioned my worth. No one laughed when I spoke. But every evening, as the city settled into night, my mind drifted back to that dining room, to Ryan's frozen smile, to Lauren's disbelief, to the way my mother laughed too quickly, like she could erase the moment if she tried hard enough. They weren't mad. They were unsettled. And unsettled people cling to denial. My mother finally called again 3 days later. "We're organizing the wedding weekend," she said, voice carefully neutral. "There's a brunch. Then the rehearsal dinner. I wanted to make sure you'd be available." "I will be," I said. Pause. "Good." She hesitated, then added, "You know, people are excited to meet you." There it was. Not "we missed you," not "how are you," just the quiet acknowledgement that my value had changed. "I'm not a guest attraction," I replied gently. She laughed, a little strained. "Of course not. Don't be dramatic." I didn't argue. I had learned long ago that pushing only made them retreat further. At night, I lay awake thinking about the past. About the first time I'd realized I was different from them. I'd been 22, fresh out of college, broke, determined. I told my family I was moving across the country for an opportunity that paid almost nothing but promised everything. They'd smiled politely, told me it was unrealistic, told me I'd be back in 6 months. When I wasn't, they stopped asking. It had always been easier for them to believe I was failing quietly than succeeding loudly. Now that illusion was cracking. Lauren texted me midweek. "Can we talk?" We met at a coffee shop near the river, one of those places with exposed brick and chalkboard menus. Neutral, public, safe. She arrived wearing sunglasses, even though it was cloudy. "You didn't tell me," she said as soon as she sat down. "I didn't hide," I replied. She scoffed. "That's the same thing." "No," I said calmly. "Hiding is lying. I just stopped explaining myself to people who didn't listen. She looked away. Ryan's parents are confused. Are they? They feel blindsided, she continued, like they weren't given the full picture. I leaned back in my chair. They weren't interviewing me. She lowered her voice. They think you embarrassed Ryan. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not anger. Something older. Heavier. He laughed at me, I said. In front of everyone. He didn't know, she insisted. And he didn't ask, I replied. Silence settled between us. She stirred her coffee, eyes fixed on the surface. Things are complicated now. They were always complicated, I said. You just didn't see it because it wasn't happening to you. She sighed. I don't want this to turn into a problem. I looked at her. Lauren, it already is. She finally met my eyes. You could help smooth this over. How? By downplaying it, she said. At least for the wedding. I almost smiled. You want me to make myself smaller? I said softly. Again. That's not what It is, I interrupted, not unkindly. You don't want them uncomfortable. And the only way they're comfortable is if I fit the role they already assigned me. Her jaw tightened. You're being unfair. I shook my head. I'm being honest. She stood abruptly. You've changed. Yes, I said. I had to. She left without finishing her drink. I sat there a long time after she was gone. Denial isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just people refusing to update the version of you they're holding on to. 2 days before the wedding, I flew back in. This time, I didn't rent a car. A driver met me at the airport and took me straight to the hotel. Downtown buzzed with weekend energy. Traffic. Music spilling from open doors. People dressed for something important. I checked in and went straight to my room. On the desk sat an envelope. My name. Handwritten. Inside was an invitation to a private family meeting before the rehearsal dinner. No explanation. Just a time and address. I knew what it meant. Control. The meeting was held at my parents' house. The same house where I'd learned to stay quiet. Where I'd learned to accept being underestimated. Everyone was there. My parents. Lauren. Ryan. Even my aunt and uncle. Ryan stood when I walked in. Nervous. Respectful. A little too late. His father spoke first. We want to clear the air, he said. I nodded. All right. He folded his hands. There's been confusion. About what? I asked. About expectations, my mother added quickly. Ryan's mother leaned forward. We simply wish we had known more about you. I held her gaze. Why? The room went still. Well, she said slowly, family matters. So does honesty, I replied. Ryan cleared his throat. I think what my parents mean is, it would have helped to understand where you stand. I looked at him. Where I stand in relation to what? He hesitated. Money, status, influence. No one said it out loud. I didn't withhold anything relevant, I said. My life choices were never your concern. Lauren crossed her arms. You could have told me. You never asked, I replied. She snapped. Because I thought I knew you. I softened. You knew who you needed me to be. That hurt her. I could see it. My father finally spoke. We're proud of you, he said. We just don't want tension. Tension comes from pretending, I said. Ryan's mother smiled thinly. We'd like to introduce you properly at the wedding. There it was. I asked, what does that mean? Perhaps a mention, she said, of your accomplishments. I felt a chill. You didn't want to know me before, I said quietly. Now you want to present me. Ryan interjected. This isn't about using you, isn't it? I asked. No one answered. I stood. I'm not a symbol. I'm not a shield. I'm your family or I'm not. My mother's voice trembled. Don't do this now. I didn't start this, I said. But I won't hide anymore. I left before anyone could stop me. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, city lights blinking through the window, and felt something unfamiliar. Resolve. Tomorrow they would all be in one place. friends, family, strangers with opinions, and they would expect me to play a role. But denial only works until the moment someone refuses to cooperate. And I knew, deep down, that the wedding wouldn't be about vows or flowers anymore. It would be about control, and whether I was finally ready to take it back. As dawn crept in, my phone buzzed again. A message from Ryan. Please don't do anything tomorrow. I'm asking you. I stared at the screen. Sometimes people beg not because they're afraid of what you'll do, but because they're afraid of what the truth will expose. I set the phone face down. Tomorrow there would be no hiding, and denial would finally run out of room. The wedding morning arrived quiet. Too quiet. The hotel hallway smelled like fresh coffee and cleaning spray. Somewhere down the hall, a door closed softly. Laughter drifted up from the lobby, then faded. I stood by the window in my room, watching the city wake up. Traffic moved slow. The river caught the early light. From up here, everything looked calm, balanced. I knew better. The ceremony was scheduled for late afternoon at a vineyard just outside the city. A place chosen for how it looked in photos. Rolling hills, white tents, strings of lights waiting for nightfall. I dressed slowly. Nothing flashy. Nothing meant to send a message. Just something that felt like me. When I arrived, the parking lot was already filling. Luxury cars, black SUVs. A few people recognized me and looked twice. Word had traveled. Inside the main building, staff moved with quiet efficiency. Florals everywhere. Soft music playing low. And there they were. My family. Ryan's family. All in one place. There was no avoiding anyone now. Lauren spotted me first. Her dress hung from a garment bag. Her makeup wasn't done yet. She looked nervous. You came early, she said. So did you. She nodded, then glanced around. Ryan's parents are already here. I know. She hesitated. Can we talk later? Sure, I said. That was the closest we'd been in days. Ryan approached a moment later. No suit jacket yet. Shirt sleeves rolled. Tired eyes. Thanks for being here, he said. I said I would be. He shifted his weight. There's a lot happening. There always is at weddings. He almost smiled, then stopped himself. Can we keep today simple? I looked at him. Really looked. This isn't simple for me, I said. But I'll be respectful. He nodded. That's all I'm asking. It wasn't. But he didn't know how to ask for more. The hours before the ceremony blurred into motion. Hair, makeup, photographers moving people into place, voices calling names, fixing details that didn't matter. I was placed in a side room during prep. Not with the bridal party, not with family, somewhere in between. Alone, but close enough to hear everything. At one point, Ryan's mother stepped in. I hope there are no hard feelings, she said, clasping her hands. I'm fine, I replied. She smiled politely. We're grateful you're here. For Lauren, I said. Yes, she agreed a little too fast. The ceremony began on time. Guests took their seats. The music shifted. Everyone stood. Lauren walked down the aisle glowing, smiling, happy. I felt it then. Genuine happiness for her. Despite everything. Ryan waited at the front, steady, confident. This was his world. This kind of moment. As vows were exchanged, I watched faces instead of the couple. My mother dabbed her eyes. My father stood stiff, proud. Ryan's parents beamed. No one looked at me. I was invisible again. The reception followed quickly. Toasts, applause, champagne. I took a seat near the back. Comfortable, detached. Then the speeches began. Ryan's father went first. Polished, warm, talked about legacy, about family values, about the future. Then my father stood. My heart tightened. He cleared his throat. Family is everything, he said. And today we're not just joining two people, but two families. He glanced around the room. And we're proud of the strong individuals both families bring to this union. His eyes found mine for a brief second. Just long enough to acknowledge me. Not enough to include me. Applause followed. I clapped politely. Then Ryan stood again. This wasn't planned. Lauren looked surprised. He smiled, raised his glass. I want to say something quickly. The room quieted. I've learned a lot in the past few weeks, he said. About assumptions. About listening. A few people shifted in their seats. I'm grateful, he continued, for the people who challenge us to see more clearly. His eyes moved toward me. The room followed. I felt every gaze land. And I want to thank my new sister-in-law, he said, voice steady, for reminding me of that. A ripple of reaction moved through the guests. Polite claps. Curious murmurs. Lauren turned to me, eyes wide. I stood slowly, lifted my glass slightly, sat back down. That was it. Nothing dramatic. Nothing revealing. But the room felt different. People started approaching after that. Compliments. Questions. Interest wrapped in friendliness. So what line of work are you in? I heard you live out west. You must be very busy. I answered simply, briefly. I wasn't there to network. Lauren found me during dinner. I didn't know he was going to say that, she whispered. It's okay. She searched my face. Is it? I don't need a spotlight, I said. I need honesty. She nodded, eyes glossy. I think I see it now. That surprised me. Later, she asked me to walk with her. We stepped outside. The sun was low, the air warm. I spent so long thinking you were judging me, she said quietly. But you were just protecting yourself. I stopped. I never wanted distance. I know, she said. I created it. We stood there in silence. Inside, laughter swelled. Music started. I don't want to lose you, she said. I looked at her. Then don't. We hugged. Not perfectly, but honestly. As night fell, the reception shifted into celebration. Dancing, drinks, joy. I watched from the edge. Ryan's parents passed me again. This time their smiles were real, careful, measured. Respect finally given. But respect that arrives late carries weight. When the night began to wind down, Lauren pulled me aside. There's something you should know, she said. What? She glanced toward Ryan's parents, lowered her voice. They've been talking about tomorrow, about plans, about opportunities. I sighed softly. Of course they have. They assume you'll help, she said. That you'll want to. I looked out over the lights, the guests, the scene they'd curated. And what do you think? I asked. She hesitated. I think they don't understand what they're asking. I nodded. Neither did you. Once. She swallowed. What are you going to do? I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, I hadn't decided yet. Forced proximity does that. Cracks things open. Makes you feel again. But feelings don't erase patterns. As the music swelled behind us, I felt the shift coming. The moment where I'd have to choose not just how they saw me, but how much access they'd have to the life I built without them. Tomorrow wouldn't be about celebration. It would be about boundaries, and whether love, once strained, could survive truth without conditions. I looked back inside at my family laughing together, and wondered who they'd be when the music stopped. The morning after the wedding didn't feel like a beginning. It felt like the pause after a storm, when everything looks calm but the ground is still soaked underneath. I woke early, before my alarm, before the city fully stirred. From my hotel window, the streets below looked ordinary. Delivery trucks, joggers, a woman walking a dog that refused to move. Life going on, unaware that something inside me had finally cracked open. I made coffee and sat at the small table by the window. My phone lay face down. I hadn't checked it since the night before. I knew what I'd find. Messages that sounded supportive but carried expectation. Polite congratulations that doubled as invitations. Curiosity disguised as care. They always arrived together. I took a sip, let the heat ground me, then flipped the phone over. 10 missed messages. 3 from my mother. 2 from my father. 4 from Lauren. 1 from an unknown number I recognized as Ryan's father. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I let myself remember. Not the wedding. Not the speeches. The years before all of this. I remembered sitting at the kitchen table at 19, filling out applications, my parents' voices low in the living room. "She's going to struggle," my aunt had said. "She always does things the hard way." I remembered my father handing me a $100 bill like it was a favor I'd never repay. "Just don't come back asking," he'd said. I hadn't. I remembered the first apartment I'd lived in, peeling paint, a neighbor who played music too loud at night. The thrill of independence mixed with fear so sharp it kept me awake. I remembered working 2 jobs, saying no to dinners, missing birthdays. I remembered the first real win, the first contract signed, the first time I realized I didn't need anyone's approval anymore. And I remembered how I'd stopped calling home, not out of spite, out of survival. The phone buzzed again. This time I answered. "Where are you?" my mother asked, breathless. "At the hotel. We're having brunch," she said. "Everyone's here." "I know. You should come." "I'm not up for it." Pause. "Ryan's parents are asking about you." Of course they were. "I'll see you later," I said. She lowered her voice. "We need to talk." "We've needed to talk for years," I replied gently. I hung up before she could answer. Around noon, Lauren showed up at my door. She looked exhausted, makeup gone, hair pulled back, the version of her I hadn't seen since we were kids. "I didn't know where else to go," she said. I stepped aside and let her in. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands clenched. "They're already planning," she said. I nodded. "I figured. They think you're going to help Ryan's dad," she continued, "with an expansion. He's been talking numbers." I sat across from her. "Did you correct them?" She looked down. "I didn't know how." "That's the problem," I said softly. "No one ever does." She wiped her eyes. "I never meant to hurt you." "I know," I said. "But intention doesn't erase impact." She nodded slowly. "They don't see you as my sister right now." I waited. "They see you as leverage." There it was, spoken aloud. "That's not new," I said. She looked at me sharply. "It is to me." Silence stretched between us. "I thought success would make things easier," she said finally. "That if one of us made it, we'd all benefit." I leaned forward. "It doesn't work like that. Success just reveals who people think you belong to." She whispered, "I don't want to lose you." "You don't have to," I said. "But you have to stop letting them decide how I fit." She nodded, tears falling freely now. "I'll try." That word again. Try. After she left, I finally returned the call from Ryan's father. He answered immediately. "I'm glad you reached out," he said. "I didn't," I replied. "You did. A beat." "Fair enough," he said. "I won't waste your time." "I appreciate that." He cleared his throat. "We're in a position to grow. Aggressively. And it seems our interests might align." I closed my eyes. "You don't know my interests," I said. "I know what you've built," he replied. "And I respect it." Respect. The word arrived late like an apology with conditions. "You respect my results," I said. "Not my boundaries." He laughed softly. "Business is business." "No," I corrected. "This is family. And you're crossing a line." Another pause. "We could all benefit." I stood, pacing slowly. "You already are. You just don't realize it yet." "How so?" "You're learning that not everyone exists to be useful to you," I said. Silence. "You're refusing?" he asked. "I'm declining," I said. "There's a difference." He sighed. "I thought you'd be more practical." I smiled to myself. "I am. That's why I'm saying no." After we hung up, I felt it fully. The unraveling. Not loud. Not explosive. Just the quiet collapse of expectations that had never belonged to me in the first place. That afternoon, my parents came by the hotel unannounced. My father stood stiffly by the door. My mother hovered. "We're worried," she said. "I'm fine." "You're being distant," my father said. "I've always been," I replied. "You just noticed now." He frowned. "This isn't the time." "For what?" "For grudges," my mother snapped. I took a breath. This isn't a grudge. It's clarity. She softened. We're proud of you. I looked at her. Say that without asking for something. She opened her mouth, closed it. My father stepped in. You could help your sister. I already am, I said, by not letting her marriage start with obligation. He shook his head. You think you're better than us. No, I said. I think I'm different. And you never forgave me for that. That landed. My mother cried quietly. My father looked away. We did our best, she whispered. I know, I said. But your best came with limits. They left soon after. That night, I walked alone through the city, past restaurants filled with laughter, past couples holding hands, past people who didn't know my name or my story. For the first time, I felt grief, not for what I lost, but for what I never had. Unconditional support, easy belonging, a family that didn't measure love by usefulness. Grief is strange. It doesn't arrive all at once. It seeps in through cracks you didn't know were there. I sat on a bench by the river, watched the water move steadily forward. I thought about the jet, the company, the life I'd built. None of it had been for them. And yet, here they were trying to claim it. My phone buzzed again. A message from Lauren. They're fighting. About you. I typed back. Don't let them. She replied almost instantly. I don't know how. I stared at the water. You tell them the truth, I typed. Even if it's uncomfortable. A minute passed. Then another. Finally, her response came. I'm scared. I closed my eyes. So was I sent. But I survived it. I stood, heart heavy but clear. The unraveling wasn't done. Tomorrow lines would be drawn. Words would be said that couldn't be taken back. And I knew something else too. If the story was going to end with peace, it would have to pass through fire first. Because when old roles fall apart, people either grow, or they reach for control one last time. And I had a feeling my family wasn't finished trying. The call came just after sunrise. I was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, shoes on, jacket folded beside me. The city outside hummed like it always did, unaware that something fragile was about to snap. Can you come over? Lauren asked. Her voice was thin, controlled, the kind of control that meant it was already slipping. Now? I asked. Yes, please. I didn't ask why. I already knew. The drive to my parents' house felt longer than usual. Red lights caught me at every intersection. A delivery truck blocked the lane. A jogger crossed without looking. Small delays that felt personal. When I pulled up, 3 cars were already there. Ryan's parents. My parents. Lauren and Ryan. All the pieces. I took a breath before stepping out. Inside, the house smelled like coffee and something burned. Toast, maybe. Or nerves. Everyone was in the living room. No one was sitting comfortably. Arms crossed. Hands clenched. Someone had turned off the TV. This wasn't a conversation. It was a confrontation waiting for a spark. Ryan's father stood when he saw me. Thank you for coming. I nodded. You asked. Lauren sat on the couch, eyes red. Ryan stood behind her, one hand on the backrest like he needed something solid. My mother tried to smile. Let's all just talk calmly. That lasted about 30 seconds. We don't understand why you're doing this, Ryan's mother said, folding her arms. You have the ability to help, and you're choosing not to. I set my bag down slowly. I'm choosing to protect what I built. Her eyes sharpened. From family? Yes, I replied. When family doesn't respect boundaries. My father cleared his throat. This doesn't have to be dramatic. It already is, I said. Ryan's father stepped forward. We're not asking for charity. You're asking for access, I corrected. Lauren looked between us. Can everyone stop? No one did. You've changed, Ryan's mother said again. Money does that to people. I felt something twist in my chest. I didn't change, I said quietly. You just didn't know me. She scoffed. You expect us to believe you built all this alone? Yes, I said. Because I did. Ryan finally spoke. This isn't helping. I turned to him. Then stop letting them speak for you. He hesitated. They're trying to protect us. From what? I asked. Not being in control? That hit something. My mother raised her voice. You're being cruel. I looked at her. You laughed when they mocked me. Her face fell. I didn't mean to, she said. But you did, I replied. The room tightened. Ryan's father rubbed his temples. Let's be practical. I shook my head. That's what you keep saying. As if practicality excuses entitlement. Lauren stood abruptly. Stop talking about her like she's a resource. Everyone froze. She looked at her in-laws, then at our parents. She's my sister, Lauren said. Not a strategy. Ryan's mother stared at her. We're only thinking about your future. Lauren's voice shook. My future doesn't depend on her money. Silence followed. Ryan looked stunned. Lauren. No, she said, turning to him. This ends now. She faced me. I'm sorry. I felt it then. The crack. The one that finally let something real through. But it didn't stop there. Ryan's father straightened. If this is how it's going to be, perhaps we should reconsider certain arrangements. The air went cold. What arrangements? Lauren asked. He didn't answer. Ryan swallowed. Dad. My heart dropped. What did you do? Lauren asked, voice rising. Ryan's mother spoke softly. There are investments, expectations, understandings. Lauren shook her head. About what? Ryan's father finally said it. About aligning families. The words landed like a slap. Lauren turned to me, eyes wide. They tied our marriage to this? I felt the floor tilt. Ryan looked away. You knew? Lauren asked him. He didn't answer fast enough. You knew? She repeated. I thought it would work out, he said quietly. Lauren laughed once. Sharp. Broken. You invited her into this mess without telling me? I didn't think it would get this far, he said. She backed away from him. My mother gasped. What are you saying? Ryan's father sighed. Let's not pretend this is unusual. That was the moment. The breaking point isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a sentence so casual it exposes everything. Lauren turned to me, tears streaming. They planned to use you. I stepped closer. I know. Ryan reached for her. She pulled away. You lied, she said. I didn't lie, he replied. I just didn't explain. That's the same thing, she said. My father stepped in. This is getting out of hand. No, Lauren snapped. This is finally in hand. She looked at me. I didn't know. I swear. I believed her. I know, I said. Ryan's mother tried again. You're overreacting. Lauren shook her head. You decided my marriage was a transaction. Ryan's father raised his voice. Watch your tone. Lauren screamed. You don't get to tell me how to feel. The room exploded into noise. Voices overlapping. Accusations. Defensiveness dressed as concern. I stood there, heart pounding, realizing something painful. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about power. And someone was about to lose it. Ryan turned to me suddenly. You could fix this. The room went quiet. Excuse me? I asked. You could say yes, he said. Just temporarily. Give them reassurance. Lauren stared at him. You want her to sacrifice herself for us? He looked desperate. I want peace. I shook my head. Peace built on silence isn't peace. Ryan's father snapped. You're tearing this family apart. I met his gaze. No. I'm refusing to be the glue that holds your control together. My mother cried openly now. Why are you doing this? She asked me. I answered honestly. Because if I don't, it never ends. Lauren looked at Ryan one last time. I can't marry someone who lets his parents decide my worth. He froze. Lauren, don't. I need space, she said. She turned to me. Can I come with you? I nodded. Ryan's mother gasped. This is ridiculous. Lauren ignored her. We walked out together. Outside, the air was cool, clear, free. Lauren broke down in the driveway. I feel stupid, she said. I thought love would be enough. I held her as she cried. Sometimes it's just the beginning, I said. We drove in silence. Back at my hotel, she sat on the bed, staring at the wall. What happens now? She asked. I didn't have an answer. That afternoon, the calls came fast. Ryan, my parents, his parents. I ignored them all. Lauren slept for hours, exhaustion finally winning. I sat by the window watching the city again. I felt grief for her, for myself, for what we both lost in one morning. By evening, my father sent a message. You've gone too far. I stared at it. Had I? Or had I finally gone far enough? Another message followed. From Ryan. Please talk to me. I didn't respond. Some breaks can't be patched with words. That night, Lauren woke up and asked quietly, Will you stay? I nodded. As long as you need. She closed her eyes again. I stayed awake, because I knew the storm wasn't over. When people lose control, they don't always let go. Sometimes they strike back. And whatever came next would decide whether this family could survive the truth, or whether it would shatter completely. The breaking point had passed. Now came the reckoning. The morning after everything fell apart, the world didn't look any different. That was the strangest part. The sun still rose between glass buildings. Cars still honked in traffic. Someone laughed outside the hotel window like nothing had cracked open the day before. But inside me, and inside Lauren, something had shifted for good. Lauren sat at the small table by the window, wrapped in a hotel robe, staring at her phone. She hadn't checked it in hours. Notifications kept lighting up the screen and fading again. I poured coffee from the machine, the cheap kind that smelled burnt but did the job. You don't have to read them, I said gently. She shook her head. I know. She still didn't move. I handed her a mug. She took it with both hands, like she needed the warmth more than the caffeine. I keep thinking, she said slowly. If I missed this, what else did I miss? That question hung in the air. I sat across from her. You trusted people who said they loved you. That's not a flaw. She gave a small, sad smile. Feels like one. Silence followed. Not awkward, just heavy. Outside, a siren passed. Somewhere below, a door slammed. Lauren finally looked up. They're all blaming you. I nodded. I figured. My mom sent me a message, she continued. She said you poisoned my mind. I laughed once. Not amused. I didn't say anything they didn't already know. Lauren stared into her coffee. Ryan texted me at 2 a.m. I didn't respond. I waited. He said he was scared, she said. Not of losing me, of losing his parents' approval. That hurt her more than anything else. I leaned back in my chair. That tells you a lot. She nodded slowly. For the first time since yesterday, her shoulders straightened just a bit. I don't think I can go back, she said. Even if they apologize. You don't have to decide today, I replied. But I already know, she said quietly. Around noon, my phone rang. Dad. I stared at the screen until it stopped. Then Mom called. Then a number I didn't recognize. Then Ryan again. I turned my phone face down. Lauren watched me. You okay? I will be, I said. Just processing. She nodded. Same. We left the hotel that afternoon. Not together forever, just for air. We walked through a nearby park. Kids played basketball on a cracked court. A man walked his dog, tugging gently on the leash. Someone grilled hot dogs at a public picnic table. Life in all its ordinary detail. Lauren sat on a bench. This feels unfair. It is, I said. She swallowed. They never wanted to know you. They just wanted what you had. That part hurts less than it used to, I admitted. She looked at me. How? I thought for a moment. Because I finally see it clearly. That evening I got an email. Not from my parents. From Ryan's father. Subject line, we need to talk like adults. I almost deleted it. Instead, I opened it. It was long, polished, careful. He spoke about misunderstandings, about emotions running high, about the importance of family unity, about compromise. Not once did he apologize. Not once did he mention Lauren. I closed the email. An hour later, there was a knock on the hotel room door. Lauren stiffened. Who is it? I checked the peephole. Ryan. Alone. I hesitated, then opened the door just enough. What are you doing here? I asked. He looked exhausted. Tie gone. Hair messy. Eyes red. I need to talk, he said. About what? About everything, he replied. Please. I glanced back at Lauren. She nodded once. I opened the door fully. Ryan stepped in, stopping short when he saw Lauren sitting there. I didn't know you were here, he said. She didn't respond. Ryan looked at me. I won't stay long. Then say what you came to say, I replied. He exhaled. They're furious. I shrugged. Not my problem. They're blaming you, he continued. They think you planned this. Lauren finally spoke. Did you? Ryan looked at her. No. Then stop letting them speak for you, she said. He winced. I didn't think it would go this far, he said again, like a broken record. That's what happens when you don't draw lines, I said. Ryan nodded slowly. I see that now. Lauren stood. Too late. His face fell. I love you. She didn't flinch. I believe you. But love without courage isn't enough. He looked at me. Can you at least talk to them? Explain you're not the enemy. I met his eyes. I'm not going to make myself smaller so they can feel bigger. Ryan swallowed hard. I don't want to lose her, he said. Lauren's voice was steady. You already did. The silence after that was final. Ryan nodded, defeated. I'm sorry, he whispered. He left without another word. That night Lauren cried again. But differently. Not frantic. Not broken. Clean tears. I feel like I'm grieving a future that never really existed, she said. That's still grief, I replied. She wiped her face. What if they turn everyone against you? They already tried, I said. I'm still here. She smiled weakly. The next few days passed slowly. Lauren stayed with me while she figured out next steps. Canceling vendors. Talking to friends. Explaining without explaining too much. Some people sided with her. Others didn't. My parents finally asked to meet. Neutral ground. A diner off the highway. Vinyl booths. Coffee that never ran out. I went alone. Mom cried almost immediately. Dad sat stiff, jaw tight. You embarrassed us, he said. I took a breath. You embarrassed yourselves. Mom reached for my hand. I pulled back. We raised you better than this, Dad continued. You raised me to be quiet, I replied. I learned to be strong on my own. Mom sobbed. We didn't know. You didn't want to, I said. Dad leaned forward. So what now? You just walk away from family? I shook my head. I walk away from control. He stared at me. And if we don't change? I answered honestly. Then we don't have a relationship. Mom gasped. Dad looked stunned. I stood. I love you, but I won't shrink anymore. I left before they could respond. When I got back, Lauren was packing a small bag. Where are you going? I asked. My friend's place, she said. I need to stand on my own for a bit. I nodded. That makes sense. She hesitated. You okay? I smiled. I will be. She hugged me tightly. Thank you for not letting them use you. I hugged her back. Thank you for choosing yourself. After she left, the apartment felt quiet. Not empty, clear. Days later, I received an invitation. The wedding was officially canceled. No explanation given. Just a notice. I felt sad for Lauren. Relieved for her too. That night, I stood by the window again. City lights blinking below. I thought about who I used to be. The quiet one. The overlooked one. The poor one. And who I was now. Someone who chose truth, even when it cost comfort. Someone who stopped begging for approval. Someone who finally understood that family isn't proven by blood, but by respect. My phone buzzed. A message from Lauren. I signed the last cancellation today. I cried. Then I felt free. I typed back. Proud of you. She replied. I don't know what comes next, but I know I'm not going backward. I smiled. Neither was I. Still, something lingered. Because when you stand up for yourself, the world doesn't always clap. Sometimes it watches. Sometimes it waits. And sometimes it comes back with one last test. I had a feeling this wasn't over. Not yet. The reckoning had happened. But the final truth, the one that would silence every voice that ever doubted me, was still waiting to be revealed. And when it was, nothing would ever be the same again. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday morning. Not by mail. Not by text. By press release. I was halfway through a late breakfast at a quiet cafe downtown. The kind with chipped mugs and a chalkboard menu that never changed. I had my laptop open, answering emails, doing what I always did. Building quietly while the world assumed I was still catching up. Then my phone buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times. I ignored it at first. Then the screen lit up with my name. Local entrepreneur announced as majority stakeholder in National Aviation Group. I stared at it. Read it again. Then a 3rd time. The cafe noise faded. The clink of dishes. The hiss of the espresso machine. Even the music overhead felt far away. I hadn't planned to go public like this. Not yet. But someone else had made the decision for me. My phone buzzed again. Lauren, is this real? I typed back. Yes. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then, they're going to lose their minds. I smiled. Across town, in offices filled with glass and leather chairs, in homes where image mattered more than truth, phones were ringing. I knew because mine wouldn't stop. Messages from old classmates, former coworkers, distant relatives, people who once looked past me, now eager to say they always believed. I let it all sit. The story spread fast. It always does when money and surprise collide. By noon, it was everywhere. Local news, business blogs, even a national outlet picked it up. They talked about my overnight success. I laughed at that. There was nothing overnight about 10 years of being underestimated. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was why this moment mattered so much. Not the money, not the jet, but the timing. Because the announcement didn't just reveal who I was. It revealed who everyone else had been. By mid-afternoon, my parents called. I didn't answer. Then Ryan's mother. Then his father. Then Ryan. I didn't answer any of them. Lauren came by that evening. She looked lighter. Not happy yet, but steadier. They're scrambling, she said as she sat on my couch. My phone hasn't stopped either. I handed her a glass of water. How are you holding up? She took a sip. Better than I expected. She hesitated. Worse than I hoped. We sat in silence for a moment. You didn't do this to get back at them, she said. No, I replied. But I'm not going to hide to protect their pride. She nodded. You shouldn't. That night, the final message came. From my father. We need to talk. Tonight. I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied. Tomorrow. Public place. We met at a hotel lobby downtown. Marble floors. Soft lighting. A place where voices stayed low, but words carried weight. My parents were already there when I arrived. They stood when they saw me. My mother's eyes were red. My father looked smaller. Not weak. Just stripped of certainty. We didn't know, my mother said immediately, about any of it. I sat down. You didn't ask. My father cleared his throat. Why didn't you tell us? I met his gaze. Because you never listened. Silence settled between us. You let them mock you, my mother whispered. And you said nothing. I learned early that defending myself only made it worse, I replied. So I stopped trying. My father rubbed his hands together. We were wrong. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But it was real. I don't need apologies, I said. I need honesty. My mother nodded. We were embarrassed. I didn't react. Embarrassed of what? I asked calmly. Of being ordinary, she said. And afraid of being left behind. That was the truth. My father looked down. We thought if we pushed you to fit in, you'd be safe. I shook my head. You taught me to disappear. My mother reached for my hand again. This time I didn't pull away. We don't know how to fix this, she said. I thought for a moment. You don't fix it. You respect it. From now on. My father nodded slowly. We can do that. I stood. We'll see. As I walked out, my phone buzzed again. Lauren. They want to meet you. Who? I typed. Ryan's parents. All of them. I paused. No. She replied almost instantly. Good. The next day, the story shifted. Not about money. About impact. A reporter uncovered the scholarship fund I'd quietly built. Another found the small aviation training program I'd funded in rural towns. A third mentioned the nonprofit I'd partnered with to help kids who aged out of foster care. Things I never talked about. Things I never needed applause for. The narrative changed. From rich sister to self-made leader. From mystery jet to measured success. And suddenly the laughter stopped. At Lauren's former wedding venue, staff whispered. At Ryan's office, people asked questions. At my parents' church, heads turned. Power rearranged itself. Lauren and I met again at the same park where everything had first slowed down. The kids were gone this time. The court empty. I feel like I'm watching my old life from far away, she said. That's growth, I replied. She smiled. I got an offer today. Oh, a job. In another city. Fresh start. That's huge, I said. I'm scared, she admitted. That means it matters. She looked at me. What about you? I thought about it. About the calls I still hadn't returned. About the expectations people were suddenly placing on me. I'm staying, I said. Building something that lasts. She nodded. You always were. We hugged. Not desperately. Not tightly. Just enough. Weeks passed. The noise faded. Life settled. One afternoon, I received a handwritten letter. From Ryan. Short. Honest. He apologized. Not for the mess. For his silence. He said Lauren deserved better. He was right. Another letter came later. From my parents. They asked to visit. Not to show off. Just to listen. I said yes. Slow progress still counts. The final moment came quietly. I was at the airport. Not boarding a jet. Just waiting. Lauren called. I'm at the gate, she said. Are you okay? I asked. She laughed softly. I think I finally am. Good. Before hanging up, she said, thank you for showing me what strength looks like. I watched planes lift off through the glass. Metal rising into sky. Weight becoming motion. I thought about the girl they mocked. The woman they underestimated. The person who never raised her voice until she needed to. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't a reveal meant to humiliate. It was truth arriving on time. And as I stood there, suitcase at my feet, future wide open, I realized something simple and steady. They thought my silence meant weakness. They never realized it was patience. And patience, when it finally moves, changes everything. The world didn't clap. It didn't need to, because I wasn't waiting for approval anymore. I was already moving forward. And somewhere ahead, just beyond the next gate, the next chapter, the next quiet decision, was a life built fully on my own terms. The kind of ending that doesn't close a door, but opens one. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.